welcome everybody. I see a lot of familiar faces, and
they really liked you, Pat.
and welcome to everybody on Zoom.
I'm letting 3 more in. You're a popular gal.
Yeah, well, Zoom is going to be a lot more. People are like, oh, maybe I can do Zoom. I can't possibly make it to the library.
You know people all over the country.
Sailing home.
No, my mom's having a Zoom party. So. any excuse to have a party. Okay. Everybody ready? So, hello, my name is Leslie Smith, as you all know, and I'm going to talk about my recently published memoir, Spitfire. I'm grateful to have the chance to have a conversation with you and would like to open with some questions. Can everybody hear me?
No, it's not.
Your descriptions of how the medical professionals with whom you worked at the beginning of your diagnosis period spoke to you and how that made you feel.
Yes.
So I'll give you that.
Anyone else have anything to add? All right, moving on. We all have our own story to tell, and it's important to discover what our story is and what you want to tell. It's valuable or life-changing, but it's also quite a challenge, and sharing it and being vulnerable is probably. Has anyone written or thought about writing something? Show of hands.
Did journals count?
Yes, of course. Any writing that you do. Everybody just raise their hand if the answer is yes. Very nice. What is a life-altering change? Does anyone want to take a stab at that, or should I just go ahead?
Oh, maybe a severe car accident?
Mm-hmm.
Losing a parent?
Can you guys think of a positive life-altering moment?
Birth of a child?
Yep.
Graduation.
Yep.
Overcoming something big.
Yep.
Well, we did, so unless you don't want to talk.
So we can all relate to life-altering changes. It's the human condition. Everybody's had them. They're a commonality, even though each experience is different. But I was thinking, a divorce, a marriage, anything, a new job, moving to another country. They can be any sort of thing. It doesn't have to be negative. It can also be positive. But when that happens, you need to reset your life and your expectations, because something significant has changed and you need to adjust to that change. Does anyone want to share any other life-altering experiences? Okay.
Can you hear me? A little more sound.
Can you not hear me?
Not well.
Okay. I'll do my best. I will be doing some readings and descriptions of parts of the book. First, I would like to tell you about the genesis of writing this memoir and share a bit of the process. In 2011, after yet another hospitalization, I realized I needed a break. I was able to get a 12-week family medical leave act leave. I also knew I needed to resolve all the feelings and emotions I was having. Wow.
There we go. We got it now, Jim. Thanks.
Anger, confusion, fear, unhappiness, despair, but most of all, anger. I started writing about the myriad thoughts I was dealing with, as writing has always been a tool I've used to make sense of my life, to untangle and clarify what I was grappling with. The words just poured out of me, and whether I wanted to write or not, I couldn't stop. Later in the summer, while I was visiting a friend in California, she brought up the idea of collaborating on a book. For the next 2 years, we met twice a year. I kept writing, and we tried to shape it into a book. However, the struggle was she was coming from a scientific point of view, and I was coming from a completely emotional side. Her life changed, and I was left with a partially completed manuscript with no idea how to move forward. Fast forward 6 years. My mother found a stack of papers while cleaning out a desk drawer and strongly encouraged me to finish it. As I was reading through what I had written, I realized I had a lot more to say, but that I needed some guidance. Late in the summer of 2020, she introduced me to an editor, and the rest was history. I wrote and rewrote and edited and rearranged and finally had a manuscript. And the most amazing thing happened during this process. All the fears and emotions, the loss of my soul, the emptiness, my broken heart, the lack of confidence, and low self-esteem had all been healed by writing this book and telling my story. It was a hard, emotionally draining experience, but it was also exhilarating. I had something to say, something to share, and a platform from which to do so. The culmination of 11 years had come to fruition. I ended up with a finished manuscript that was published in February of this year. I'm going to start with the foreword, which was written by my friend of over 30 years, Kelly Farwell-Hagman. She is a genetic counselor and the Senior Director of Medical Affairs at Avery Genetics. Bless you. Forward. My world first collided with Leslie's in 1994 at the start of our freshman year at Scripps College in Claremont, California. We were dorm mates and we became instant friends. She was an expert tennis player, a trait which landed her on our school's tennis team, but she likewise had a knack for any sport she picked up. When I met her mother a few months later, I came to understand where she got her grit. When I met her father, I knew where she got her non-judgmental concern for people. Then, as now, she naturally gave others an immediate benefit of the doubt. Thus, I knew I could always be my authentic self around her. For that gift, I am forever grateful. I avail myself to it to this day. In the summer before our last year of college, we backpacked through Europe. Each morning we would wake up with grand plans to spend the entire day touring ancient cities, but Leslie would inevitably tire out halfway through the day. I did not understand how an athlete of her caliber could be so easily drained. In hindsight, our trip brought into focus what was actually an ongoing, gradual waning of her initial energy levels over the course of our 4 years together. Her radiant presence was increasingly dampened by low-hanging clouds, the genesis of which was unknown to us at this time. When I learned of Leslie's diagnosis, I was a graduate student studying genetic counseling. I have been struck by these types of coincidences and connections that we have. I was learning about the complexities of inherited disorders, just as Leslie was learning about her own family's condition. Myotonic muscular dystrophy, MMD, is a complex condition characterized by some of the most complicated genetic concepts. The most common symptoms are progressive muscle loss and weakness, myotonia, which is an impaired ability to relax muscles, pervasive fatigue, and abnormal heart rhythms. MMD is in a category of genetic conditions called trinucleotide repeat disorders. Nucleotides are the building blocks of DNA, and a trinucleotide is a set of 3 nucleotides. There will be a test on this afterwards. Many genes have repetitive regions, but when there are too many repetitions, the gene coding gets disruptive, leading to clinical symptoms. An example of this is Leslie's father had 96 repeats, and she has 594. MMD is also characterized by anticipation, a phenomenon that occurs because these repeats tend to become longer with each passing generation, leading to earlier onset and more severe disease. One of the characteristics of MMD that is vividly present in Leslie's family is pleiotropy, in which disruption of a single gene can lead to multiple, seemingly unrelated symptoms. Through Leslie's recounting, you will see how each of these medical terms translates into real-life impact. How would she take the news that she inherited a condition that would not only lead to a shortened lifespan, but would also slowly eat away at her muscles, the very thing that had defined her youth? How would she take the news that her father's life was likely nearing an end? What would this mean for her brother? What would this mean for her mother, whose 3 family members could be ripped away from her? How does someone whose youth and sense of self-worth that is so dependent upon her independence, athleticism, and physical capabilities navigate through the news that, over time, her muscles will deteriorate, that her energy level will wane, and she will become increasingly reliant on the assistance of others? Leslie's is a story of triumph, perseverance, and passion for life, a lesson for all of us. You will see how she reconciles these losses and emerges on the other side. She learned to love life again and to love herself again with the same passion and fervor that she loves those around her. The book is separated into 7 sections, each dealing with a different aspect of a tennis match. Knowledge or interest in tennis is not a prerequisite. Tennis has always been an integral part of my life and identity from the time I was a small child. The format of a tennis match can be seen as similar to life, and tennis metaphors seem to be a perfect lens to view my story. The first section is coin toss. That's how you start a competitive match with the flip of a coin. And when I was born, I had 50% chance of surviving, and as you can all see, I won that coin toss. And then the chance of inheriting a neuromuscular disease was also 50%, and I didn't do so well with that coin toss. The second section is grip. And just as I was starting to lose my grip in tennis, I was losing my grip on life, losing my identity as an athlete. A strong grip and the ability to change your grip is important in tennis. In order to hang on to my racket now, I need to tape it to my hand. Eventually, however, I've been able to regain my grip on life, but it's not as strong as it was before the onset of MMD. The third section is love, which is my favorite word, but in tennis, if you're at love, you're losing, because love means absence of score. The next section is serving and receiving serve. When you're serving, you're in control at the start of the point and are expected to win your service games. However, when you're receiving serve, you got to take what the person on the other side throws at you, just like in life. And you don't know what's going to come or what it's going to be, and you have to immediately try and figure out how to deal with it. In essence, try to roll with the punches. And the next section is singles. And in playing singles, you are on your own. Even if you have a coach or part of a team, you're out there facing your opponent by yourself, and you only have yourself to depend on. And I needed to gain the ability to be alone with myself and stand on my own. And that was very hard and took a long time, because there was nothing worse than being alone with my thoughts and feelings and having to deal with them on my own. 2 bounces. 2 bounces is the only difference in the rules between able-bodied tennis and wheelchair tennis. In wheelchair tennis, you get 2 bounces. Other than that, it's a completely different game. It is not anything like I expected. But through training and going to tournaments, I found a community of people and got to know them and their story, and this definitely saved my life, because without this community and this sport, I would be in a very sad situation. The last section is deuce, and at deuce you're tied. It's an even score. And this relates to the search for balance, that we're all constantly trying to find balance, keep balance, maintain our balance. not lose our balance. So life can be viewed as a tennis match. You have to have tenacity, determination, and never give up. So now I will read positive and competitive. Regardless of your competition or circumstances, ask yourself only to do your best, as this is all you can do. Champion's mind. In a tennis match, you are not only playing your opponent on the other side of the net, but you're also playing with or against yourself and your own mind. Whether you are playing singles or doubles, there's only yourself to count on. Therefore, your mind game is one of the most important factors. Confidence can cause you to win a match, even if you are playing an opponent that is better than you. Lack of confidence can cause you to lose to someone who is not as strong a player as you are. In effect, your mind can help or hinder you, and it is important to use your mind as a tool rather than a handicap. Your attitude about a match can make all the difference. If you approach the match with the belief that you can win, it will help you play to the best of your ability. Conversely, self-defeating thoughts or a pessimistic outlook can cause a self-fulfilling prophecy. Your belief in yourself and your abilities isn't going to win the match, but it will make it possible to do your best. When you play to win, there is a much greater chance of that occurring. I play to win every day in every area of my life. Just as mental toughness is necessary in the sporting arena, it is also essential for a positive and productive life. I do my best every single day, whatever my best looks like on any given day. I choose the positive over the negative and use mental toughness to find happiness despite my struggles. I always try to find the silver lining, to find the sun amidst the clouds, to remind me that when the forecast is partly cloudy, it means that it is also partly sunny. Being mentally tough just means striving to use a strengths-based perspective and having a positive slant and an optimistic outlook. There are days when I am unable to be mentally tough. My mind frame is negative, and my lack of positivity brings me down to where my perspective is bleak and life seems hopeless. All I can do is allow myself to have these feelings, let them go, and remember that tomorrow is another day. Eventually, I can find my confidence, and I'm able to return to a positive, optimistic framework. The empathy and compassion I bring to each day help me to find my way, especially in times of darkness, and by doing so, I find my joy. Empathy and compassion are core parts of me and make me who I am. These attributes also help me to remain in a positive frame of mind because it gives me a purpose. It also gives me energy, all of which contribute to my sense of well-being. There is an old Cherokee legend that has always been one of my favorite analogies of the way to find a happy and joyful life. A grandfather explains to his young grandson that there are two wolves within us. One wolf is positive and beneficial. The other wolf is negative and destructive. These two wolves are constantly battling against each other for the control over us. The grandson asks his grandfather, "Which one will win?" And the grandfather replies, "The one you feed." When I remember to feed the positive wolf and express empathy and compassion for others, I can also feel empathy and compassion for myself. I was so athletic, and when I lost my athletic ability, I not only lost my identity, but I also lost my soul. Physicality was so important to me, and the loss of it left me empty. The disease was affecting my exterior, and the diagnosis had left me broken. It was a life-altering change, and I needed to find a way to stop trying to outrun it, accept the changes that were starting and increasing, and try to find acceptance. So I'm going to back up a little bit. I'm going to read high heels. at age 36. I have a love affair with shoes. I must have at least 30 pairs. I have ranging from worn-out flip-flops to serious winter boots. There are dress shoes for summer, clogs, mud shoes, sandals, hiking boots, boots that reach almost to my knees, and athletic shoes. Shoes make the outfit is one of my guiding beliefs, and no shoes make an outfit like high heels. I love the way they look and the way they make me feel. Now MMD has become between me and my high heels. I've never been great at walking in heels, but now it is virtually impossible. Walking long distance is hard enough. Strap a pair of heels on me and I can barely make it 10 feet. Over the past few years, I've accepted this, giving up any shoes that are too tall and too wobbly. I've held on to a few pairs of my more sensible heels, but for the most part, they just gather dust in my closet, keepsakes to remind me of the fun times I had while wearing them. I will occasionally put on a pair to dress up an outfit for an outing. It takes the distance from my bedroom to the kitchen to remind me that I'm taking my life in my hands. Most likely, I won't even be able to make it to the car. These days, if I wear platform shoes or wedges and don't completely focus, I will fall. Even crossing the room requires furniture surfing because I'm that unsteady. As for making it down the stairs, forget it. Wearing heels is a risky thing for me to do because if I fall and break a bone, I'm never getting those muscles back. The last time I wore heels and had to walk any distance, I had to lean most of my weight on my husband. He ended up practically having to carry me. "Did you hurt your feet?" my mother asked when we returned. "Only my toes," I responded. "Well, your toes are a significant part of your feet," she helpfully pointed out. I took the shoes off and rubbed my aching toes, longing for the days when I could manage to walk more than a few feet in my favorite sandals. But more than my feet hurt, strapping those shoes on changed my whole feeling about myself. I love opportunities to be dressed up. I want to show off my body and be seen as sexy, feminine, alluring, and womanly. For me, high heels represent so much more than just fashion or another pair of shoes. They were symbolic. Now my illness was forcing me to give up part of myself, my femininity, and that was a crushing blow. As a little kid, my fondest wish was to be a boy. Being faster, stronger, and doing things even better than the boys became my goal and one that I could usually attain. I was constantly active and never sat still for a minute. In second grade, my teacher would let me do cartwheels to the pencil sharpener just to help me get the wiggles out. Since I didn't end up becoming a boy, I decided that the next best thing was to beat the boys. When my male cousin and I would run around the block and I beat him by a long shot, I felt like I could conquer the world. I felt strong, in control, and just downright badass every time I won another tennis championship. This was Leslie, the extraordinary athlete, extremely competitive, active, lively, determined, and in control, and I loved this me. When my self-regard wavered during my teenage years, this was the self-image I could draw upon, and it would lift me back up. When I was 6 or 7 years old, my 3 cousins from Long Island came to visit for a week. My mother, never one to have kids sitting around all day, signed all of us up for a sports camp from 8 to noon every day. She would drop us off in the morning at the high school with a bag lunch and our bathing suits. After the camp, we would have our lunch and then walk to the town pool and swim till the pool closed at 5 p.m. When my mom returned to pick us up, we would all be sitting on the curb, exhausted. The activities picked up right where they left off when it was our turn to go to Long Island. My mother took my brother, me, and the 3 cousins on a canoe trip. We spent the entire day canoeing around a reservoir, exploring, racing back and forth, and having a wonderful time. There was always an activity, a game or adventure, and it all involved being physically active. I ran, jumped, hiked, and swam. I rode horseback, did gymnastics, played Little League, and wrestled. Most of my summers were spent at the beach. I'd stay all day, every day, coming home only to have lunch. I spent hours in the water, and when I was back on dry land, I was playing soccer, wiffle ball, paddle tennis, tag, or some game we just made up. As I got a little older, I turned to more serious sports. There was tennis, of course, but also sailing, field hockey, ice skating, and ski racing. I loved them all and went to every camp I could. In high school, I played 3 varsity sports a year, and in the winter, I would figure skate before and have ski practice after school. When I wanted to work out with the guys on the ski team on Sundays, my mother, a coach with a very strong attitude about the value of exercise, put her foot down. You can't exercise more than 6 days a week. I never thought about calories, gaining weight, or dieting. I had very little body fat and didn't have enough to start my period or completely go through puberty until I was over 16. Even when I did gain a few pounds in high school, I lost it all in a matter of days as soon as I started exercising again. During high school, my friend and I would go out to dinner once a week. Since I loved potatoes of any kind, I would always order a baked potato and french fries. It never occurred to me that this was a lot of calories. Through my senior year of high school, I used a rice cooker in my room for most of my meals. If I knew what carbohydrates were, I never gave them a thought. It wasn't until several years after college that I started to put on weight. I've been trying to lose weight ever since, with little or no success. Of all the things my disability has taken from me, my inability to get back the body I had before has been among the most demoralizing. My craving for carbohydrates are as intense as when I was a teen, but now I can't burn those calories through exercise, or even exercise much at all. To have lost the body I once loved and was proud of was hard. Losing abilities that I had never given much thought to, though, such as standing on my toes, was like a slap in the face. "What's wrong?" my friend asked when she found me in the kitchen crying to my mother. "I can't stand on my toes anymore," I said through my tears. She looked at me in confusion. "Why do you need to stand on your toes?" I tried to explain that it wasn't that I needed to stand on my toes, it was the fact that I couldn't do it anymore. I'd walked and even run on my toes for most of my life, and now I couldn't. It was another sign that the muscles that held me up, in this case, my feet and ankle muscles, were weakening. It was another thing that MMD had taken from me. The skill, which seems so silly, is one I wanted to keep. Being unable to shift my weight onto my toes means no more jumping. I can't do jumping jacks or jump rope. Even walking in a normal manner, which requires shifting your weight from heel to toe, is affected. This summer when I was 36, I noticed I made a lot of noise when I walked, especially coming down the stairs. It means I now walk on my heels in an ominous sign of what was to come. When my father and brother began to fall, they would fall backward. Neither has buttoned up on their toes in years. When I lost the ability to jump, bounce, and run, I could no longer play able-bodied tennis. When I found wheelchair tennis, a major piece that had been missing from my life and my identity returned. I was able to return to a passion. Determining your passion is so important and helps us make sense of our lives. You need to know your passion and do it, because even with disease, if you can find your passion, you can have a full life. Yes, ma'am. Passion. My family has always been big believers in non-traditional medicine, and since there was relatively nothing the doctors or conventional medicine could do to help us, we were more than willing to try alternative routes. The loss of energy was one of the symptoms that we found the most challenging. To this end, in 2001, we decided to consult an energy worker. Walking up the steps of an old brownstone, I felt hopeful about my appointment with an energy worker that my mother had found. This might be the answer to the intense amount of fatigue I had been battling. I was willing to try anything, and if nothing else, she couldn't make it any worse. I didn't have a lot of information and only knew a little about chi, life force, and getting energy from the universe. I was hoping she could help. What I mostly remember are snippets of our conversation. She talked about different ways of getting energy from the universe, but I couldn't take anyone else's energy, and not to shower for several hours after the appointment or it would somehow wash off the effects. Getting energy from the universe means a variety of things, but one of the things that I remember her emphasizing was about being to get energy from the passion in our lives. Passion, I have come to realize, is one of the single most important elements of finding joy and meaning in life. If you can find your passion, and you must, in order to thrive and survive, you can find a way to make it through whatever you are struggling against. The passion I have for the beach is easy to fulfill, and without that refuge and connection, there would be a great void in my life. A close second is tennis. Tennis was a huge part of my identity, and when I was no longer able to play, I lost so much more than just an activity. Finding wheelchair tennis brought a sense of community and the ability to return to something that I not only loved, but was a part of my soul, has been paramount. For those of us living in a compromised situation, it is vital to find something we are passionate about. Without this, there is no reason to get up in the morning. Passions are different for everyone. For my brother, it is disabled sailing. He is passionate about sailing and was no longer able to do it without adaptation. Sailing is in his blood and in his soul, and no matter how tired or discouraged, he can always rise to the occasion, and I believe, like tennis for me, that sailing saved his life. I cannot emphasize this enough. If you know what you are passionate about, embrace it fully. If not, determine the activity that fills you, makes you smile, and makes your life a little bit brighter and worth living. It is the only way to have a full and satisfactory life. You can see someone's whole demeanor change when they are engaged in something they are passionate about. I had only one appointment with the energy worker and hadn't noticed any difference, although it probably takes more than one session for any effects to be felt. My energy has continued to decrease, but I've been able to draw on the energy of the universe by focusing on my passions and trying to eliminate from my life the things that deplete my energy rather than add to it. Eventually, I was able to let go of the past and start looking towards the future. I knew I needed to reclaim my life, and I had started to begin this process. Moving forward. Never, ever, ever give up. Winston Churchill. How do I move forward in a way that is positive, joyful, and peaceful? Perhaps this is the lifelong journey I will be on, to find and learn and relearn the answers, to determine a way to achieve a life that I feel is fully worth living, to find the balance I am seeking. In Anne Morrow Lindbergh's collection of diaries and letters, Bring Me a Unicorn, she states in her introduction the reason to publish letters and diaries. One wants to be an honest witness to the life one has lived, and the struggle one has made to find oneself and one's work, and to relate oneself to others in the world. Lindbergh. I have the desire to use what I have learned and to examine the struggles I have faced and some of the lessons I have learned along the way. I want to use what I have experienced to help me to understand my life and who I am inside, how I got to where I am, and most of all, to do it honestly. To look at my life honestly and objectively at the same time is indeed a challenge. Having a disease is not who or what I am, but something that is part of me, that I live with every day, and has, in some ways, shaped me. It has played a role in developing who I am and who I will become, and reinforced the necessity of examining where I am, where I want to go, and how in this present state I can begin to move forward. I want to have this journey culminate in a place where I can use all my skills to relate to others in the world we all cohabitate. In terms of the individual, there is a wish to give testimony to a journey taken by one human being, which might amuse, enlighten, or explain other individuals to themselves. This is my goal, my fondest wish, which I continually express. If I can use my writing as a way to help others bear the pain of their journey, I will have succeeded. I not only want to be a light in the darkness, but to lighten the darkness for others. It is comforting to know that others have walked the same or similar path as you and survived. There is a feeling of validation that comes from seeing someone else walking in your shoes, or at least having a similar taste in footwear. My goal is to relate to the world at large, and in the process, learn to relate inward, honestly, fiercely, and fearlessly. There is no reason or point to share my story, my thoughts, feelings, and ideas, if not to help support others, especially those who may have to go this way alone, without support or the strength of others to lean on. Above all, to anyone and everyone who has ever had to struggle in a sharply altered world, or has endured a crisis of faith in themselves, or, in essence, for everyone. Writing this and researching different books has changed my life so completely. I have grown and changed through this process, and have ended up in a place that is the polar opposite, in some ways, from where I began. This experience has helped me to define many things in life: what I want, what I need, who I am, and what is important to me. I've been able to take hard situations and find ways to make them easier to bear and to live with every day. Not knowing what the future holds, especially in terms of my disease advancing, is scary and anxiety-producing. But I am more able to focus on the here and now, release old hurts, injustices, and angers, regrets, and mistakes, and go from here, from wherever here is, and take each day as the gift that it is. We all have influential and special people in our lives who give us the courage and strength to go on. It is these people, their stories, testimonies, or thoughts that help and give us direction. When I find words of others that speak to me, it lends images and pathways for my own understanding, and gives me a way to tell the stories that are important to me. I will make my mark, change the world, and leave, if nothing else, at least one person's life changed for the better. That is my goal, to be a light, a beacon, a strength, or at least a slight comfort to those who are on a similar journey to mine, but do not have the ability to see out of the blackness. And maybe I can be a leader for them as others have been for me. I'm going to conclude by reading the epilogue, which is current. I'm on Good Harbor Beach, one of my favorite places in the world. No matter what is going on in my life, the beach always centers me and makes me happy. Good Harbor Beach has always been a constant in my life. As I sit on the beach, enjoying the feel of the sun on my skin and watching the waves rolling into shore, I see a young girl walking down the beach with her father. I'm reminded of the day when I sat at the water's edge with my father and he told me of his recent myotonic muscular dystrophy diagnosis. I remember the fear, confusion, and anxiety I felt as I did my best to make my father laugh. My memory of that day is still crystal clear, and I can see the young woman I was sitting on the beach, whose world was about to crumble. In the last 22 years, my life has gone up and down many times. From when I first heard of MMD and knew my life was about to change, to the total devastation of the doctor's diagnosis, to today, when rather than devastated, I feel exhilarated. The doctors were right about some things, but the loss of dreams and the end of my life as I knew it has never come to pass. My determination, grit, and the fact that I am a Spitfire gave me the ability to overcome the death sentence those doctors gave me. The fallout almost did me in, but I never gave up, no matter the odds or how difficult the struggle. The life I am living today bears little resemblance to that 24-year-old woman, and even less to the 16-year-old girl I was when the first troubling symptoms started to emerge. I am happier than I ever remember being. My self-confidence that I lost so long ago has returned, and the future looks bright. Physically, the symptoms have continued to increase, and my abilities have diminished. But there are hours and even days when I don't feel any disabilities, and times when I almost forget that I'm any different than any other 47-year-old woman. That is phenomenal. These days, I can make the choice about what I want to focus on. Life isn't all sunshine and lollipops, and this is not a path I would have ever wanted to walk, or a journey I would have wished on my worst enemy. There are still a lot of negatives, but now the positives outweigh them. I never expected to be where I am today, dealing daily with pervasive fatigue, a single woman heading towards my late 40s. And although I wish things could have been different, I have finally reclaimed my life. Writing this memoir led me to the place I am, and the growth that occurred in the last 2 years was painful at times, affirming in others. And although my marriage ran out of gas along the way, I came back to life. The joy and happiness, the excitement and anticipation that I found were missing for many years. I realized that the spark inside me hadn't gone out, it was only dormant. Now it is bright and will give me the strength to face the struggles that I will encounter in the future. It is no longer a future I fear, but one I can't wait to live and see what the life I've chosen has in store for me. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I really enjoyed having this chance to share my book with you. Does anyone have any questions, thoughts, or comments? Yes.
I'm curious about your long-term experience with the medical community. As was brought up earlier, I hope for you that learning more about your disease and the impact on your family has also been the case in the medical community, and that their ways of communicating with you have perhaps improved?
For the most part, I would say yes.
Good.
My mother is interested in, she's my medical advocate, and she likes to educate everyone. And some doctors have been more receptive than others to being educated. And I have a wonderful medical team at Johns Hopkins, and they've been wonderful with any time I have frequently some medical issue with talking with the local doctors or whatever to help them not do things that are going to be very damaging to me. So what do you guys think?
I think you're a rather remarkable human.
I think your book was very well written.
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to sharing it with friends.
Excellent.
I had to read it.
Yes. And can we ask the people on Zoom?
Yes, folks on Zoom, I have muted everybody on Zoom, but if you have a question, please feel free to unmute yourself and speak up, or send it in the chat and I will read it out.
Leslie, hi, it's Betsy and Ruthie, and we are so proud of you and inspired by your story and tuning in from here on Martha's Vineyard, and just have followed your journey and been lucky to know you and your family. So bravo.
Thank you. There's a party in San Diego.
We're having lots of margaritas.
Yeah, sure.
Different now.
Hey,
Hey, Gerald.
Leslie, that was excellent.
Thank
And
you.
girl, you are a sexy whipper without your high heels. You got it working. That's very, very enjoyable. Thank you so much.
Colin, I know you have a question.
I have a lot of questions. Pick one. Well, I'll make a comment, because I'm your mama. You can only imagine Leslie describing how much activity we did. And of course, as they got older, it seemed to diminish significantly, and we had no idea what was going on. So anytime I left the house, it would be a sunny, beautiful day, they'd all hunker down and read and do nothing. Meanwhile, I was climbing a mountain or playing 3 sets of tennis, and I was just flabbergasted. I thought I had a bunch of couch potatoes, and I didn't know how this happened, because our life was nothing like that. And it was just unexplainable. Leslie went on a nose course, and she couldn't complete it. And in fact, one of the things she had to pack on, she was so exhausted, she fell in the water. And fortunately, the young men that were with her got her out, and they sort of took the opportunity to wrap her in a sleeping bag because she was freezing, and warm her up. And we were so confused by years. What had happened? Colin was always tired, and Harvey, of course, each generation of this disease comes on earlier and more profound. So Harvey started in his 50s and couldn't figure out what was wrong. And I see Anne Lafayette is there, and Anne's husband, the good Dr. Bob, was the one that helped Harvey get to a neurologist to find out what was going on. And that neurologist wanted to see Colin and Leslie. And we said no. We said we want to definitively diagnose. So the neurologist did a genetics test, but in those days there was no insurance for genetics tests. It took a month and so on. So finally they came back, and through that Colin and Leslie were diagnosed. But it took years, and the diagnosis was almost a relief, because finally this puzzle, and I have to say, many other families would have fallen apart. We had so much love for each other, and we've done so many things together that it was hard to believe that their life was looking the way it was.
But despite the diagnosis, there was a long time after.
Yes, and they had started the disease early. So the long and short of it is that I think it's a testament to Colin and Leslie and the good genes of their father that they were able to deal with this, and still, Colin still went out and sailed, and Leslie still does what she's doing. So I think we go back to saying bravo to passion, and passion will get you through whatever your Achilles heel, whatever your challenge is, and get to look for Gail right now, so thank you. My question is, you look happy, are you happy?
I am very happy. I'm so happy that all these people have come out on this rainy night to support me and to listen to what I have to say and to share with them. And I'm so happy that I was able to finish this book and publish it and get it out there. And, you know, as I said, if I can make someone's life better, that is what I want to do. And I appreciate all the work that Becky's done and you've done and Nikki's done and all my friends and family, godmother, auntie. And so I am happy.
I'm happy for you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
That's my brother, Freddie, who does. So does anyone else want to give a comment or a response or thoughts?
Leslie, I have a question. In writing this book and getting it out there, have you met with other people besides your dad and your brother who have this? Have you had that opportunity?
Well, a little bit. I did meet one young man, he's about my age, and he had been working, had this big job, was married, had a house, and within a couple of years ended up living in his parents' basement and like not ever leaving. And so that was kind of where this whole thing about passion came, because I was like, you have to find your passion. He's like, well, I don't like the beach, sailing, or tennis. And I was like, those are passions. Find your own. And so one of the goals I really wanted to do with my brother is to start a support group for people with adolescent onset. And all they have right now is for people with adult onset or caregivers for congenital, which is children. But there's nothing for our group. And I did, in graduate school, do a project talking with other people that had adolescent onset of a disability, whatever it was, and that was really amazing. But
it's incredibly rare, correct?
It's pretty rare, and adolescent onset is really rare. Adult onset is common because, you know, people just think they're getting tired of getting older. But more and more is being known. I remember the first time we went to Johns Hopkins, we met with a genetic counselor, and she gave us all these horrible statistics. Life expectancy is 50, cataracts at 20, which I had cataracts, my brother did as well. Unfortunately for him, male pattern baldness. A variety of things. I mean, all these horrible things, but we found out it was based on like a previous generation. But there hasn't been much. I haven't really met many people.
Could I say one more thing? And it's a shout out to Johns Hopkins and to the folks, Bessie and her mother Ruthie, who are on Martha's Vineyard, because in life, connections and serendipity is amazing. And they live in Baltimore and helped us find our way to Johns Hopkins. And Colin and Leslie are doing as well as they are because of the doctors there who have educated the doctors in Vermont. And it's possible that two of the doctors, Dr. Noah Lesson, a pulmonologist, and Dr. Anders Barth, a cardiologist, who were the lungs and the heart are the two big trigger points that eventually do you in. And those doctors have been awesome in helping from afar. And so really a big shout out to Bessie and Ruthie and the Johns Hopkins doctors.
Well, thank you, Gail. And you should all know that I was fortunate to be one of Gail's many tennis players on the college team. And I remember Colin and Leslie growing up on the side of the court. They were little kids then. And the doctors may be great, and you know, as you said, the treatment there. But truly, having Gail as a coach, I know what a force that Gail is as a coach at home. And so truly, Colin and Leslie, you may not always feel it, but you're very fortunate to have a mom who is fierce on the tennis court and fierce with her wonderful children that we all love.
I can second that about being on the college tennis team under the tutelage of Gail Smith. My name is Allison O'Hare, and my aunt is on this video right now. She called me 5 minutes ago. One of the things I wanted to mention is that my daughter was standing behind me, listening in on this for a little bit. She tried to come in and she was on video. But she's got type 1 diabetes, and she's gone since 9 years old, and we've gone through our ways. But I definitely think I'm going to give her your book. Aunt Susan, you have the book for me, right? All right. She definitely is going to want to read this.
Thank you.
Allison, wonderful to see you.
Good to see you too, but where are you? Are you on camera right
Yeah, everywhere, so I hit the San Diego. Colin was in the regatta this weekend in Coronado, and he came in second place. Wow.
Oh, congratulations, Colin.
Wow.
Is there any way, Scott and I are in Maryland, my sisters, and we want to just say how much we love the book, and we love you, Leslie, and all your whole family, Gail, Colin, everyone, and we just sending our love and best wishes.
Thank you.
Congratulations from Colin.
Dude.
Hi, you're feeling my thunder.
Hi, hello, this is Diane from Long Island, Mom's friend from Long Island.
Yes.
I just wanted to say hi, Leslie, very proud of you. Almost finished with your book, and it's amazing. And having grown up with your mom, she is a force. Congratulations, you've done a wonderful job. Hi, Gail.
Hi, Dee.
So does anyone else want to make a comment or respond?
It's a family affair.
It is a family affair.
Leslie, you're amazing.
Leslie? It's Ruthie. I want to know, are you on a speaking tour with your book? Oh,
Can you help me arrange one?
I would love to. I would think the medical world would be a great place to start.
That would be good, I think. Candy has mentioned that she thought it should be in all medical school libraries, elementary school libraries. So far,
I also think all high school coaches of women's sports and male sports, it's a real eye-opener. You didn't have any idea what was ahead for you. But I think it's something for teenagers, for any age, really.
and the only school library that I know it is the Frederick Gun School in Connecticut, where my friend teaches. And also, I know there are some folks here from the residents, and my auntie has been tasked with getting me a speaking appearance there. So if any of you want to talk to whomever it is you talk to there, I would love to come and do some readings at the residence. Well, thank you all so much for coming.